All right. What's up, everybody? Hey, it's Lane Booth again here, dashboard designer, helping you turn data into dollars for small business. And today we're talking about CFO metrics. We have several fractional CFOs out there supporting small businesses. So this one is for you. Drea is here to help walk through, what it looks like to actually break apart and figure out what those key performance indicators need to look like so that your clients are hitting their cash flow objectives. So they're hitting those mile markers, those milestone metrics that you are looking for, so that you can literally just help your clients see results faster. So, Dre, you want to talk about like how we work specifically a little bit more with this client who had a fractional CFO, also providing some guidance of what to put on her actual dashboard.
Yeah, so this client provides therapy services for two physical locations and one virtual location. And at the same time, she started working with us to help build the dashboard and really hone in on her metrics. She's also had been working with a fractional CFO. And in their process, they had developed a revenue forecast as well as expense forecasts. And so those expense forecasts were really focused on what percent of expenses should be OpEx, should be payroll, and that's split between the clinicians and the non-variable staff. And so with that, we had an opportunity to really help. What are the operational metrics that support those key CFO metrics?
Absolutely. Because if you've been around for a second or two in small business, you know that while cash is king, right? Like that, we need that in small business. It's also the last thing that happens in the business transaction, right? So there's so much that happens from a marketing perspective for client fulfillment and deliverables. And cash received is oftentimes like the very last thing. So if you are only looking in the rear view mirror, it becomes pretty challenging to help your clients. So that's why we want to stay much closer with what are some of those indicators that you can look at, that you can have line of sight to, so that you can help your clients if there's a problem faster, not just at the end of the month when the books are completed or the end of the quarter when the review comes through. But hey, how about we look at it and we see that, hey, there's a result on day 3 of the month. So much easier to create some solutions around that earlier on. So with that, Drea touched on something really cool, which was how can we focus on hitting cash flow goals, or how can we focus on hitting like monthly recurring revenue goals? Any MRR lovers in the house here today? Drop MRR in the chat. So what was really interesting about this client, what we discovered was that her MRR, we were able to break that down into one key metric, was a certain number of appointments or billable services that her team was delivering week in and week out. So Drea, you want to talk to maybe like some of the challenges with getting this data and then some of the benefits that we saw once this was in place? I'm just going to sketch out, what this might look like for you tracking MRR in your clients' businesses as well.
Awesome. Yeah. So with appointments, this being a therapy-based business, that is the bread and butter of their revenue. So with that, the target to meet the revenue goals that support the practice of these 3 locations was to hit 200 appointments per week. So what we did, so this was actually something already identified with the CFO. So what we went in is a little bit deeper is to say, okay, 200 appointments a week. What does that look like over time? How many therapists do you need to have on board for that? So tracking that, and then also putting that against reality. There are going to be points in time when it's going to be difficult to hit 200 per week. That might be around 4th of July. That might be around Christmas time. That might be around Thanksgiving. So helping the client understand, on average, where are there risks in terms of just physically not having the time in a week or the attention of the appointment of the clients, and then how can you kind of fill in those gaps elsewhere?
Yeah. And then one thing too that can become really helpful to recognize is a lot of these places have multi-locations or multiple ways of delivering these appointments. So, if it's a, office on Elm Street versus Main Street, or even telecommunications, sometimes you can have an offsite option. available. So being able to summarize this all in one view where you can see, hey, here's office location 1, office location 2, and then maybe once we finally add, teledoc, on top of this as well, we can see a full picture of what's truly happening at a glance, instead of manually going through your spreadsheet, like having somebody type in all the appointments that came through this week, or being able to summarize this in a way that visually makes sense in a snap versus just spending extra time that is not required or necessary to understand what's going on. So in this case, being able to see, hey, here's our goal line, and hey, some weeks we're hitting it, and then wow, here in week 3, what the heck happened? Was this a holiday? Did the whole office get sick? Like, what happened here? And is that controllable? Is there something that's, holidays happen almost every single month. So instead of just like swiping your hand and be like, oh, well, it was a holiday. Well, how about we come up with a strategy for when it's a holiday? Are there some other things that, can get done? Or do we start pre-booking heavily the week before so that we can, or we bring extra person in the week after the holiday to make up and to gain ground, so that on average, like it is necessary for you to have 200 appointments a week to meet your MRR goal, then that means by default, you're going to have some weeks that are higher than that so that you can level out the average. Make sense? Dre, anything else to add on that?
Yeah. And so what we've also looked at in tandem with this, because of the nature of the business, they are a therapy practice. It is common practice within this type of business where the clients then schedule their future appointments. And so we also then you look at the same chart of what's already on the calendar for the upcoming week. So we flowed this out for about the upcoming next 6 weeks so that the practice can see, okay, where are we in gaps in filling the calendar of our existing therapists? What can we do to, whether it's bringing in new patients or ensuring that our current patients are meeting their desired recurring appointments?
Absolutely. So, a lot of times, you hear this phrase throwing out like, hey, are you being proactive or reactive in your business? The great example of something that can be utilized to be very proactive in the business. So getting that line of sight before it even happens. So, this is still like a little bit of historical data here. Proactive booking, now we're looking at like literally, let's look at the numbers before they ever even happen. That's taking your KPIs up a serious notch so that you can see, hey, are we light one week or not? Or hey, is there a better way to look at this? Should I be looking at, hey, everybody, when they book appointments on Mondays, there seems to be no reason for them not to book their second appointment, or for whatever reason, when this receptionist is taking the outtake or, the offboarding for the day, she always gets that second appointment booked. She always gets that next appointment booked. But when this other receptionist takes care of things, it seems to be a lot of notes of, we'll follow up in 2 weeks. So what are some things that you might need to do training wise to help improve the proactive future bookings out there? Drea, anything to add on that?
Yeah, no, you're spot on in terms of being able to take this data down to a staff level. So for this particular client on the actual clinician side, we broke down those 200 appointments and we're like, here are your full-time clinicians, here are your part-time clinicians. What have they historically been able to manage in a week? What is their capacity? For the physical location? So telehealth, there's no capacity limit other than calls in a day. But the physical location, what rooms are available, and really building up from bottoms up of, is 200 appointments a week possible? And where do we expect those appointments to come from in terms of the individual staff members?
Yep, absolutely. So we already talked about, some of the key things to look at appointment wise. I want to talk about payroll, Drea, because I know, if you are running a service-based business, like payroll is typically one of your top, if not the top, expense in making sure that your business stays in business. So let's talk about some of the challenges that can be expected when you have a hefty payroll to take care of.
Yeah, so payroll was So revenue being the top metric that she had worked with her fractional CFO, and secondarily was payroll. And so the target was for payroll to be under a certain percentage of overall revenue, and then that broken out by the variable rate of the clinician. So the clinicians essentially get paid per session, and then there's fixed staff that regardless of what is earned, they have an hourly rate or a salary that they're being paid.
Absolutely. So, yeah. So while it can feel like, hey, we just got to hit these revenue numbers, sometimes there's actually quite a balance, that you're supporting your clients with, right? So you have the revenue numbers and you also have the expenditures that are happening, and they can be fixed, they can be variable. Either way, having that line of sight becomes very, very important so that you can ensure, hey, we've got positive cash flow coming. To make sure that the business can withstand, the ebb and flow that's inevitably going to happen at some capacity with the business as well. And so these are a couple of the top CFO metrics I wanted to share with you. This is like a draft out. This is how like my brain works. I love to sketch it out first. But when we are building the automated dashboards, digital dashboards for our clients, and even teaching some fractional CFOs out there and bookkeeping agencies, that type of financial consultant, how to also embed dashboards into their services. Here's what some of those dashboards start to look like. So I wanted to share with you, for those of you that might be using Xero or QuickBooks, what if we could get all of your, important metrics, whether they're leading or lagging indicators, if they are more proactive or reactive, being able to have this information at a glance where you've already distilled, hey, these are the most important things, much like Drea and I already talked about. Like, you oftentimes are looking for certain metrics to be, hitting, to be firing week in and week out. So bringing that together into your one source of truth, like your one report that you can go to, that also is visual, that makes sense when your client logs in as well, so that they can see, oh wow, our income and expenses, I can see those moving up and down. I can see our net profit actually rose during the April, May, June time period, and now we're looking a little bit soft again come August. That visualization, if anybody out there has more creative or just fast-paced clients that you're working with, creating this visually can be really, really helpful. And even adding in some things, like Dre and I were talking before, talking to you guys here today, of accounts payable, accounts receivable. Like, what does that look like bucket to bucket? And being able to put that together in a visual form so that your clients know exactly where the money is sitting and how much is coming to them and at what time frame. Dre, anything else to add about like just the automation piece that's possible when you get data dashboards created digitally versus continuing to export out of QuickBooks?
Yeah, I think it's really being able to visually see it, because your eye, it simplifies it for your eye to see. We have many clients who are just as happy with a spreadsheet as we are, and that can read through and cull through the data. But a lot of times our clients are a little intimidated by spreadsheets. It's not where they run their business, and that's where their expertise is. And to go through a spreadsheet, they really need someone to walk them through it. Whereas what a dashboard does is they understand their business, they understand the levers in their business. And by having a dashboard, it helps synthesize that data for them so that they can interpret the results in tandem with you, versus completely relying on you to interpret each number for them.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you'd like to learn a little bit more about dashboards, bolting this on as into your suite of services as well, definitely head over to lanebooth.com and check out our demo over at lanebooth.com, LAYNEBOOTH.com. There's a demo on the front screen there as soon as you land. And if it makes sense to book a call and discuss further about how this could be applied to your business and helping your clients, then we'd love to touch base with you there. All right, guys, we'll see you next time, turning more data into dollars with some data magic. All right, talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye.